When you finish typing your Word document, occasionally you decide that, boy, you would like to make it a little more interesting, maybe a little more quirky, maybe attention-getting. And one of the ways you can do that is to use the illustrations group. Hi, I'm Terry, one of the consumer technology specialists for Mid-Continent Public Library, and today we are going to start a two-part series on the illustrations group in Word, and we're just going to add some interest, well, some pictures basically, to our document. As I look at our example document, I can see that, well, it's a summer update. So evidently, as we look at some of these headings, Marlin Perkins, playgrounds, new tablet, these are things that have happened during the summer, or maybe even we are going to use them heading on into the fall. But we've put in some information, so it's possible that this would belong to a scrapbook, a diary, maybe even somebody's baby book, depending. But this is some way to chronicle things that have happened during the summer. And as I go below the different paragraphs, I can see that I've added in basically a placeholder where I'm going to put in some pictures so that I make this more than just text, make it kind of pop off the page and try to draw people's attention to what I was saying. So the very first thing here is the Marlin Perkins statue. And I could decide that I want to just delete that information after I put in the picture, or I could decide that I want to use it as the caption for the picture and just leave it in. So I'm going to click above my italicized text, and then I'm going to go up to the ribbon, and the second tab here is Insert. So I'm going to click on Insert, and then come down to the third group, which is Illustrations. The very first button in that group is Pictures, and when I click that drop down, I see that I have three main options for adding pictures to my document. And it could be that they come from this device, or they come from stock images, or they come from online pictures. Well, we're going to go with this device because I took a picture of that statue. So we'll click this device. Now it opens up what is essentially the Windows Explorer, and we will go to, on the left-hand side, the folder that probably has my picture, which is Pictures. And when I click on that and I look over at the right, I should be able to see in alphabetical order Marlin Perkins. So we'll click on Marlin Perkins, and I can see that that adds in the file name on the left-hand side here in the file name box. And then as I follow that box over to the right and down, I can click Insert. Now I could have also double-clicked on that picture, and I would have been able to insert the picture as well. And so now here is that picture, and let me scroll down just a bit. That looks kind of dark to me. Well, I'm not the best photographer. So I might decide that I want to fix it and make it look better. Well, because I have this picture selected, and I can tell it's selected because I have these little circles, sizing handles or selection handles, whatever you want to call them, at each corner of the picture and about halfway down on a side. And as I go up above the ribbon, because I've selected that picture, I get a contextual tab that is named Picture Format. And your contextual tabs will always be to the right of these sort of default, always existing tabs. So Picture Format, and as it pops up, you can see that you get all sorts of buttons that have something to do with working with pictures. So because that is so dark, I think I'm going to go to the left to the Adjust group and go to the first button, Corrections, and I can either sharpen or soften or can change the brightness or the contrast. So I'm going to go with Sharpen and Soften, and it's kind of in the middle here. I think I'm going to go to the right and sharpen it 25%. And it's not much of a change, but I think it may be enough of a change. Let's go back to corrections because I think it's just dark. And I can kind of look at some choices here, but I think this one, that's too light. So I'm going to go with this brightness at plus 20% and click on it. And now I have a picture that I kind of like. Now let me click on it again because I think it needs a border around it so it separates the picture from the rest of the document. So I'm going to go back up to that picture format tab, and the thing is it may not be activated, so I can click on the tab to bring it up and all of those choices. And then in the middle we have picture styles, and on the right hand side of picture styles I can simply go to, at the top, picture border, and I can click on that drop down and I can select a color, and I'm just going to go with black. Click the drop down again, and this time I'm going to change the weight of that line from 3/4 point to 1.5. Is 2 1/4 too much? Maybe. So I'm going to go with 1.5 point and click off, and now I have my Marlin Perkins picture with a border around it, and so that it's actually, you can tell that that's a person. I really like that a whole lot better than how we started, and so we have inserted our first picture. I'm now going to click off of Marlin Perkins statue so that we can see that yes, it is very much more detailed. It's still not maybe a perfect picture, but well, it's about as good as we could do. And let's come down to playgrounds because we've been spending some time this summer in different kinds of playgrounds. And my placeholder says, well, you know what, why don't you insert a picture of a climbing wall, because this was something that was very popular for our family to do. So let's go back to Insert and Pictures, again from the Illustrations group. And this time we're going to go down to the second choice, Stock Images. Now these are stock images from Microsoft. So you'll notice that running across the top, we have different tabs that we might want to check out. And then below each tab, we have essentially filters. So here's, say, New. And then here's Enjoyment and Luminosity. What is that? And Sky and Modern and Industry. And we have all of these different pictures that pop up, growth, connection, and they scroll down quite a way. So there's a lot there. Well, I'm just going to click on New to get us back to the beginning here. And then as I go to the right, notice that we have different icons that we might decide that we want to pull into our document. To the right of that, we have cut out people. And these are very varied, so you should be able to find something that fits what you need. But these have what looks like kind of a gray and white checkerboard behind them, which means that when you pull those into your document, those checkerboard backgrounds will disappear, and just the cutout person is what's going to show. We have all of these different people that we can look at, so let's look at that. And all of the different emotions that they show and all of the different ways that they are standing. You can tell that surely one of these would be something that you could use in a document if that's what you need to do. That's your cutout people. But then also to the right of that, we have stickers, and again, all sorts of different kinds of stickers that you might want to use. Looks like we're kind of bee heavy at the top here. To the right of that, we have illustrations, and these illustrations tend to be in grays and yellow, or I guess that's gold. But all sorts of filters here again. And then to the right of that, cartoon people. And these are Well, kind of challenging, but kind of fun, because you'll notice that you have characters, but you also have half characters, or you have heads and faces, upper body, full body, accessories, decorations, and of course it continues. So that means that you can make your own cartoon person by assembling pieces and parts and decorations so that it really fits how you want to add these cartoon people to your document. Well, we're just going to go back to the first choice, images, and then I'm going to click in that search box and I'm going to type climbing wall. And if I could type, it would even be a little bit better. Now, the climbing wall, I kind of like this colorful one that I see here. It's sort of generic, but it's very similar to ones that we've been using. And you'll notice that as I hover my mouse over this picture, in the upper right there's a little circle, so I could just check that picture and then I could go to other pictures and find that same little circle and check those as well. So I could insert more than one picture all at just one click. So down at the bottom right we're going to click on insert, and now I have my climbing wall. Now I kind of like this climbing wall, but what if I decide to get a little creative? Well, I can come up to the top here to picture format, and then again I could look at the adjusting group to see what's there, although I don't think I want to do any of those adjustments. So I'm going to come to the right of that to the picture styles group and go to the third button here, which is more. Rather than going a row at a time up or down, I'm going to click on the one that looks like the down arrow with the horizontal line at the top. And then I can choose a shape, a frame to put my climbing wall in. And I might decide, well, the only thing about that is it kind of looks like a smartphone case. So I think maybe not. Let's come over here to this oval and look at the soft edge oval and click on that. And I kind of like that the way it is. Now, I may decide to remove my placeholder climbing wall information, but I think I've got my climbing wall added to my document. I'm going to go to the top of my document again. And on the top of the second column, we have new tablet. And yes, we have someone who needs an age-appropriate tablet that has age-appropriate games. And so I'd like to kind of put in a picture about that as well. My placeholder says gaming tablet. Well, let's see what we can do with an illustration for that. So again, we're going to go back up to Insert and then Pictures. And the third choice here is Online Pictures. Now with online pictures, the default is you're going to do a Bing search, or you could kind of go by category here as you look at these different choices as I scroll through. And so actually those categories, those filters could be all that you need. But if you really want to search Bing, you could do that. And let's see, we need a gaming tablet. Now notice, besides saying that it's powered by Bing here in the upper left, it also says that it is Creative Commons. Now Creative Commons, if I come down to the bottom left, it says that we are responsible for respecting others' rights, including copyright, and Creative Commons gives you the confidence that you are in fact respecting copyright when you add in pictures. We have checked Creative Commons only because that seems like a really good thing to do. Also notice that to the left of Creative Commons only, you have a button so that you could filter by size, by type, or by layout, by color, all sorts of different kinds of filters here as well. We'll just kind of click off of that. And for our gaming tablet then, we're just going to scroll through a little bit and find what we think looks like a good one to insert. Let's click on this one. And then down at the bottom right, we can insert. Now notice when I click off, it says this photo is by, and sometimes it will give you the author's name, but it also says that it is licensed under Creative Commons, and so you know that it is safe. Now, again, we might decide to put a border around this whole thing. So we could go to Picture Border to the right of where we found those cool styles, or we could even go to Picture Effects. So let's go to Shadow. I always think those are kind of fun. And click off. And so we've added a shadow and made that almost look 3D as we look at our new tablet. I am going to remove my placeholder for gaming tab because I think the Creative Commons information and even the banner that runs across the bottom of that image kind of explains what we're talking about. So I'm going to delete that and maybe press delete again to move our next section up a little bit. And that is, we have a new backyard play area. And so we would like to show people how that backyard area is shaped, because we couldn't make it a rectangle or a square. We kind of had to come up with something else. So what we're going to do is click where we want our shape to go, and then we're going to go back up to Insert. And then in the Illustrations group, we're going to go to that kind of second column or just to the right of the Pictures button and go to Shapes. Now, when we look at shapes, we have all sorts of choices. At the top, it has what we've used recently. So if we want to go back and use one of those again, they're easy to find. But below that, we have lines and rectangles and basic shapes and block arrows and equation shapes and flowchart shapes and stars and banners and call outs. Very useful information. Now, what we are going to do is go to the basic shapes, and here we go with a trapezoid, and we're going to click on it. With the shapes that you add in, you generally start in the upper left and you click and drag down diagonally to the lower right. So kind of picture how a trapezoid would look. I'm clicking in the upper left, and as I drag down to the lower right, I like that size, so I'm going to put it there. And then, because I've got this selected, notice that because this is a shape, I get a different contextual tab going above the ribbon, but again to the far right, I have shape format. So starting at the left, I could edit the shapes. I could put in slightly different kinds of styles, but I'm going to go to this Shape Styles group, the second one here, and go to the Shape Fill, and I might decide that I don't maybe think that that blue is quite right. Maybe I need a lighter blue, so I could put in, say, a lighter blue. And then do I want for that shape outline, do I want it at that dark blue, or do I want it in a different color? How heavy, what's the weight of that outline? Maybe I want a slightly whiter outline. And then I could also put in some shape effects that would be very similar to the effects that we saw with the pictures. So shadow, reflection, glow, etc. Well, that would be kind of fun. Let's add in a glow. It is our new backyard play area after all. And then I do need to move that text down a little bit so I can see what's going on. So I'm just going to press enter a couple of times, and I can add in some more information for my document. Now that is just kind of fun, isn't it? To move my shape, As I put my mouse on top of that shape, I get it's kind of a plus sign, but it has 4 individual arrows pointing up, down, left, and right. And then I can click and drag and move this shape maybe down and to the right just a little bit so that it's a little bit more centered on my page. As the last part of page 1, I have an article about going back to school and some of the concerns for our kindergartner. But I might decide to make this a little fun by adding icons. So I'm going to just click to the very beginning of our very first sentence here, and then I'm going to go to Insert and go to the Illustrations group, but this time under Shapes and to the right of Pictures, we have Icons. And the icons, well, you'll notice that it's very similar to what we saw when we saw images, right? It's just that it's the second tab here. And so I could maybe try to use a filter of some kind to find what I'm looking for, or I can simply do a search. So I'm going to do a search for school. And this gives me quite a few choices. Let's see, I kind of like this one, kind of an old-fashioned school. And I'm going to click on it, and then down at the bottom right, Insert. And I can resize this icon so that it fits what I want to do a little bit better. I can also get that arrow that kind of has the 4 arrowheads, and I could even try to drag it down maybe to see if it works a little better. I think I like it up at the top. The other thing that I can do is I go up above the ribbon, and this time I have a new contextual tab that's called Graphics Format. So when I click on it, I could actually go to the graphic styles, and I could put in a fill if I wanted to do that. I could put in the graphics outline. So maybe I want to make it blue so that it matches my playground area here. And that would be kind of fun. I'm noticing that some of my text has now moved to the second page, so I may need to do some resizing. Let me resize my picture here a little bit and come down, and even though I really like that playground area, I may need to resize it a little bit just so I can get all of my text on my first page. All right, so now will he be able to keep his food on his lunch tray, or is he going to dump it in the floor? Well, let us go back to Insert and Icons, and we could even look for lunch, see what happens there. Oh, perfect. And let's click on Insert. And again, it's pretty big, so we'll just resize it until it goes to a size that's a little more comparable to what we want. And we could go back to, once we click on that icon, the graphics format and change the color. I don't know, it's got an apple, so it almost has to be red, doesn't it? Maybe I want to do graphics fill as well. So let's click on that. And let's look at graphics fill and see what happens. Yes, much better. And we may need to make that school a little bit smaller still because we do have a third choice here, supplies. So let's go to Insert and Icons, and let's look at pencils. And that's easy enough. Let's click on that and click Insert. And I definitely will want to resize it. And it seems to me that a lot of school pencils are yellow, so we will want to change that graphics fill to, I think a bright yellow, so that it really pops out. Now the outline, we might want to put a slightly darker color, see if that pops it out a little bit. And so we have now added in our icons for school starting again. We've added in our playground area, and I'm still going to maybe make it a little bit smaller. And then we've also put in our picture for the new tablet, And again, I'm going to resize that down just a little bit more. On the left, we have our Marlin Perkins statue and our climbing wall. So I'm going to go to File Print because sometimes that's an easy way to see. That page has changed a lot simply by adding in the images that we think will help explain our page. To learn even more, be sure to go to mymcpl.org/online learning for such great resources as Universal Class, LinkedIn Learning, Learning Express Library, and Udemy Business. We also premiere 2 new videos every Wednesday and Friday at 1 o'clock. If you miss a video premiere, you'll still be able to find it later when it's convenient for you. You can find us on Facebook at MCPL 360, and you can find us on YouTube by going to our MCPL MO channel. From there, be sure to look for our MCPL Consumer Technology Resources playlist, which contains all of our tech videos.